think you should. Yeah.
Is this the death of the Ana meta? It might be, because Ana just recently got nerfed on the PTR, along with a bunch of other buffs and nerfs, some of which that are equally crazy. Ana got hit really hard, and we're actually going to discuss her and these other heroes that have been changed here in today's video. Let's start with Ana, given that she has been the definer of the meta for so long. Ever since Ana was realized to be the strongest healer in the game, she has been seeing massive amounts of play with a basically 100% pick rate at higher ranks and in the pro scene. The changes we're going to be seeing here on the PTR include a damage decrease on her biotic rifle from 80 damage to 60, and reduced damage and healing coming from her biotic grenade. Both values have been halved, so now it will deal 30 damage instead of the previous 60, and it will heal for 50 instead of the previous 100. Let's talk about the biotic rifle change first. A damage decrease to some may not be that important. However, we have to realize that now Ana can no longer 3-shot 200 health targets, because she'll only be dealing 180 damage instead of the old 240. That's a pretty big hit to her. She used to be able to 3-shot Pharah very easily and be able to deal with her very well. Now she's being limited more to a healing playstyle because her damage output will require an extra shot on squishier enemies. Even though Ana's strength is in her healing, it's also in her versatility, and her versatility has just gone down significantly, given that now she really should be shooting allies a lot more than enemies because she's lost that 3-shot potential and just a lot of DPS. Over 20% of her DPS, actually. It's gone down significantly. Let's talk about biotic grenade, then just tie this all together and talk about Ana as a whole. A lot of people seem to think that the biotic grenade changes aren't big, and I don't know what you're getting at, because these changes are absolutely massive. Having the effect of it entirely, the damage and the healing, is a pretty substantial nerf on its own. But what really kills is when you are using it on yourself and an enemy at the same time. Previously, as someone like Genji, if you're diving in Ana and you've got her on low HP, she used to be able to grenade the floor, hit herself and you at the same time, which would have had a 160 HP swing, meaning he loses 100 HP and you gain 60, therefore swinging your health 160 above what his was. Does that make sense? Now the swing is only 80, and given that biotic rifle has been nerfed on its damage as well, means Ana is going to have a much harder time dealing with flankers and people trying to focus her down. She won't be able to anti-heal them and heal herself for such high amounts anymore while dealing a fair amount of damage output. She's pretty much going to need protection like, I don't know, every other support in the game. I personally think Ana is still going to see play. I don't think she's going to fall out of the meta at all. I still think she's actually going to be the dominant healer, given that her healing boost is the same and her biotic rifle's healing is also the same. However, I do think this opens up the game to a lot more possibilities. Ana is much more vulnerable now on her own, and her healing, her burst healing potential has gone down on squishier targets. She can't just grenade them for an instant 100 HP like she used to. It's only 50, so now she's got to choose whether to grenade or shoot. It adds a new layer of skill to Ana, and it adds a new layer of skill to the game where you actually have to watch your Ana and not just expect her to fend off on her own. I think she's still going to be good, but not great. We can go more in depth on this in a future video if you'd like. If there's any of these changes you want me to talk about more, leave a comment down below and we can do a whole video about them. For now, let's move on to Junkrat. Now, Junkrat only got one change, but it's much bigger than a lot of people are realizing. Junkrat no longer hurts himself from his own explosions. This includes his primary fire, his passive Total Mayhem, which is what happens when he dies, and his ultimate. You may be wondering, why does it matter if his passive doesn't hurt him? He's dead already. Well, let me tell you, because Genji can actually deflect that passive. Now, if he deflects it, it can't hurt him. Previously, Genji could deflect his Total Mayhem, the death bombs that Junkrat drops, and it would still hurt Genji. So now it won't. In fact, anything Genji deflects on this shouldn't hurt Genji anymore because it basically converts the projectile to his own. So that's why that effect was added. But anyway, back to the main thing though. Junkrat no longer hurts himself with his primary fire. This just made Junkrat a much bigger threat up close. In small rooms, Junkrat can now just fire away and not have to worry about damaging himself at all. Actually, in fact, as Junkrat previously, I feel like I've died more to my own explosions than to enemies. So changing this is a huge buff to Junkrat. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this change is going to make him tier 1 meta super every game played in pro scene, you know, crazy good. But I think this is a pretty good buff to start with, because Junkrat has never really been in a good place in my opinion, and this gets him a little bit closer. It makes him a little bit less of a troll pick, and something that you might see a little more often in various niche situations. I think it's a good change, and I'm glad Blizzard incorporated it. Orisa also got some changes on the PTR. Not much to talk about here, because she hasn't actually been on live yet, but her primary fires magazine, her fusion driver, is now only 150 rounds instead of 200, and the cost for her ultimate has gone up by 15%. Clearly they thought she was a little bit too powerful in these departments, so they toned her back a bit. We'll see if these changes are the ones they stick with before she goes live, but they have a lot of time until she goes live. She's not going live, I think, on the next cycle where PTR pushes to live. She's going live in 2 cycles, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that's what Blizzard said. So nothing to really look into there, because we don't know how she's really going to perform yet. Sombra, though, Sombra's getting more buffs. Blizzard likes buffing Sombra now. Not her damage output, which, you know, would be the easy change, but her stealth and her translocator both got some pretty significant buffs. So now when she is leaving and entering stealth, the range at which enemies can hear her has been reduced to 15 meters. So you won't hear her from across the map yelling, "Here I am," or whatever she yells, because it used to be super loud. You'll still hear her a lot, and I don't think 15 meters is actually a good distance. I think it should be even shorter than that, but this is a step in the right direction. And then translocator, actually, the cooldown has been reduced from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. That's like no cooldown. You can just teleport everywhere. That's pretty crazy. I'm liking that. They're really pushing for mobility and like disruption on Sombra instead of her damage, and I think that's good. And I think Sombra is slowly creeping her way into the meta, seeing more and more play with people like Bastion and Orisa around, and I think this could make her pretty good. I think in the near future, Sombra is going to be a pretty solid pick. The monkey man himself, Winston, actually received a buff that the community has been suggesting forever. So now when you place Winston's barrier, the cooldown starts whenever you place it and not when it's destroyed, because previously you'd place it and once it was destroyed, the cooldown would start. Now it starts right away. So you'll be able to get more barriers out as Winston. You'll be able to disrupt more and do a lot more and be more actively in the fights, because you're somewhat useless when you don't have that barrier as Winston. Not entirely, but a little bit. So this will help with that a lot. On top of all these current changes, there is one left to talk about: Zenyatta. Zenyatta is receiving a pretty significant buff. It's much bigger, and it's a very skill-heavy buff. Let me tell you what it is. Orbs of Destruction. Now, his alternate fire, where you can charge it up, the recovery time it takes to actually start shooting or doing anything again has been reduced from 1 second to 6 seconds. So now when you charge up that juicy shot, if you miss, or even if you hit your shot, doesn't matter, you can start doing things again almost twice as fast. You can actually start shooting and left clicking once again and using your other orbs again, and it's pretty interesting, because I actually think that was a huge downside of that ability. Lots of Zenyatas didn't use the charge up because it has a long delay after it. Now that delay is not nearly as long, and I think people are going to start using it more because of it. And on top of this, the other buff Zenyatta is receiving, which is absolutely insane, is that you can now throw your Orb of Discord through barriers. You might think that's useless. They're behind a barrier. You can't hit them anyway. But it's so not. Now you can place your Orb of Discord on like someone like a Zarya who keeps peeking in front of her Reinhardt, and your Orb of Discord is ready to go on her right when she's about to, you know, step in front of it. Or you can place your Orb of Discord on Reinhardt, and whenever Reinhardt's shield drops, he's got to move. He's got to get out of there because he's going to take a lot of damage. This buff is crazy. You can even put it on Winston when he jumps in and puts a bubble down, allowing the person that's in the bubble with him to deal more damage to him. This is so versatile. It allows you to basically pre-place your Orbs of Discord before fights start, because fights don't really start until all the shields are down and people are really going at it. so you can kind of pre-place your discords now. And I think it's a pretty cool change. I think Zenyatta is going to see a lot of play in the very near future. Tell me what you guys think down below. I think this patch is great. I love all the changes they're incorporating. They're being very radical. They're actually making big changes that could definitely impact the meta rather than these tiny little ones that nobody cares about anymore. Tell me what you think. Tell me what buffs or nerfs you would like to see, or if these ones are stupid or perfect and you like them. Just give me your opinions down below. I'll see you guys all later. Have a good one. Lone Hawk out.